I'm a recording fool. I'm a recording maniac. I'm a recording tank or train. I just keep recording. Always and forever. I'm coming at you live. Because if I don't have a live audience, I'm just talking to myself. Now, I don't like talking to myself. So I'm going to talk to you. Back here with another episode of AMXkids. This is episode numero 8, episode number 8 of AMXkids, and we are wrapping up the Breadwinner. Hello, Ashlyn Schoner. Welcome, Ashlyn. How are you? Hope you're doing well. But anywho, I'm back with AMXkids 8, and I was thinking of something. So I kids aren't on Facebook, right? Young kids, the kids I'm reaching out to are not on Facebook. So I've debated. I streamed one on YouTube. I put it up on I think I put AMXkids up on YouTube. But the truth of the matter is this: I'm after you, person listening, because if you're listening to me, you would probably want your kids to listen to me. So I'm actually after you to then take this piece of audio and share it with the young people in your life. The whole point of AMXkids is to teach life lessons through middle school age books. I used to be a junior high teacher. I used to be a senior high teacher. I understand the importance for positive influences and positive encouraging messages to young people in general, but especially young people. And so that's why I'm recording on Facebook, because I'm hoping that you appreciate it and bring it into the lives of the young people in your life. I may get over to YouTube. YouTube is just so big, and so big. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. So these episodes, these AMXkids come out every Tuesday. They teach life lessons through middle school age books. They're fun. They're goofy. I'm whatever I am. I used to be a teacher, so basically whatever I do and say in these episodes is what I would do and say in front of a classroom. And it's one of those things where if you have kids, so my kids are about 5 and 2, and so it's not quite yet, but pretty soon Gracie's going to be old enough to where she says like, "Dad, you're embarrassing me." But I just truthfully don't care. I think it's fun and it's funny. And I don't know if Ashlyn, if you're still watching or not, but I'm sure I've been accused of being a big dork before in school, but I don't care because, I don't know, it's just me and I just try to make it fun. So, I don't even know why I started saying that, but anywho, ski. That's what AMXkids is for. That's why I'm recording on Facebook and not YouTube, even though the kids aren't on Facebook. All right, okay. I'm gonna give a shout out. I'm gonna give a shout out to my my brother-in-law, if he listens. All right, 1, 2, hold on. 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of AMXkids. We're back in, and I'm going to start with a little bit of an intro, and I'm going to talk to your parents and coaches first, kids. If you're listening, just play your game for a second. I'm going to talk to your parents and your coaches and your teachers, etc., that might be listening. These episodes are created. Kids, don't listen. Shh, don't listen, kids. These episodes are created to facilitate conversation between you and the young people in your lives, right? One of the most valuable aspects of my life, of my growing up, was having an openly communicated relationship, honest, truthful relationship with my parents. And just that conversation as a young person, just to know and to feel, hey, I'm not alone. This person's got my back. This person's by my side is extremely valuable. So AMXkids is about teaching life lessons through middle school age books, but it's also about providing a platform for discussion. Because, you know, I'm reading about Native Americans, and this is an aside, but and you know, when Europeans came over to the U.S. and in these parlays and these conversations, so conversations is extremely important, and I hope that these books can offer a platform to discuss important issues with the young people in your life. All right, kids, I'm back. All right, turn the game off. So I just came back from the beach last week, and my two nephews, I have two nephews, many nephews, but two of them are 11 and 10, and they were with us at the beach, and they were playing their video games. And my other nephew, oh wait, never mind, it was my 37-year-old brother-in-law, was connecting and playing with them as well. I don't know what game they were playing, but push pause on your devices. We're going to talk books. And why are we going to talk books? Because books contain wisdom, my friends. Books contain the answers to the questions that you may have. And today we're hopping into the 4th episode of The Breadwinner. We're going to cap off this book this week. We're going to start another book next week. And I sincerely hope you read these books. It takes time. It takes work. But if you want to accomplish anything in life, it takes time and it takes work. It takes hard work. So I hope you take the opportunity. You can get this book, The Breadwinner, the other books that I talk about on the show at charliespaniard.com/reading list. Read through them. Listen to the episode, then read the book, then listen to the episode. However you want to do it. Just put your nose in some books, right? Maybe 10 minutes of device time, and then what do you say, like maybe 10 minutes of reading time? Let's trade off and on. So we're going to talk about 3 main points today in this week's AMXkids. We're going to talk about your future. We're going to talk about getting back up after getting knocked down, and I am going to talk about my friend Rocky Balboa. And lastly, we're going to talk about perspective. So you're a middle schooler, and I say the word perspective. And my guess is you're thinking to yourself, "What's Spaniard? I don't know what perspective is." And I'm thinking that because yesterday when I was making this lesson plan, I Googled it to look up the definition. I know what it is, but could I actually verbalize what it is? Could I tell you what it is? So I need a little assistance. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about perspective. The first thing I want to start talking about is the future. Your future. How scary and how daunting is it? So let's say you're 10, 12, maybe you're only 8, right? Maybe you're 9, 10, 12, somewhere in that range. Thinking about the future can be scary and stressful. You know, even as an 18-year-old, you know how you're thinking right now that a senior in high school is super old? Well, I'm telling you right now, kids, a senior in high school is very young. And then a graduate from college is very young. And then someone who gets married at 25 is still very young. And then someone who has a kid who's 1 or 2 is still very young. So the older you get, the more you realize how young you are. And I know you think you know everything, because I think I know everything. But the idea of thinking about your future, it can be scary and it can be stressful. So in this book, The Breadwinner by Deborah Ellis, we're dealing with Parvana. And Parvana is a young girl, 13 years old, living in Afghanistan, dealing with a very, very, very tough life situation. Something that very few of us on Earth really have to deal with, the situation that she's dealing with. And because of that reality, because of the turmoil that's going on in Afghanistan, she and her family are forced to consider reality and forced to consider their future on a daily basis. How it is, right? The reality, how it is, but then also how it might be. They have to come to grips with the reality of the situation and what their future might be like. It's scary to think about it. When you're young and you're thinking about your future, it's scary. I don't know. I just want to play video games. Dad, leave me alone. My daughter, Gracie, she's 5. She says, Dad, leave me alone. I just want to play, right? I just want to put on makeup. I just want to play whatever. Leave me alone, Dad. It can be stressful. But thinking about their future, how it is, how it might be, it affects their choices and decisions on a daily basis. So here's the takeaway. Here's the learning point from this. Think about your future. Be aware that there is a future. Be aware that your future's out there. Consider your choices and decisions. Look, when I was a kid, I knew I wanted to be a state champion wrestler. I knew it in my heart of hearts. I was born pretty much with this desire to be a state champion wrestler. The decisions I made thinking about that future, I made those decisions because I was always aware. What do I want? I want to be a state champion. Well, what choice would a state champion make right now? That's how I lived my life. And then I decided I want to be a teacher. And then I decided I want to be a UFC fighter. And then I decided I want to be an author. So your future is going to change, right? What you want to do in your future is going to change. You don't need to stress about that right now. Don't worry about it. It's going to change as you change. It's wide open. It's uncertain. Don't worry about that. Just consider, ask yourself, a starting point. What do I want for my future? And then understand that your decisions that you make today, do I get up early? Do I eat the right things? Do I do some push-ups? Do I go for a run? Do I read a book? Or do I spend all day buried in my electronic device, not even looking or talking to anyone that's actually real? Those choices and decisions will shape your future. So towards the end of the book, as I said, I wrapped up this book. And it's a great story, and it's a very relatable story to anyone out there who deals with a tough situation. And it was a neat, so Parvana, our main character, young girl who's forced to be the breadwinner of her family. She has to work. She's a young girl, and she has to essentially carry the finances of her family on her shoulders. Imagine that. You're 13 years old, and you have to go to work, and you have to provide for your family. That is not easy at all. But at the end of the book, after experiencing all of this hardship, Parvana, it says in the book about Parvana, regarding her future, Parvana had no idea. Whatever it was, she felt ready for it. She even found herself looking forward to it. I have chills up and down my spine reading that. She even found herself looking forward to it, looking forward to the future. She had no idea what was coming away. That's the idea of thinking. That's the idea of building resilience, building toughness, developing an ability to overcome difficult situations. And that lends me right into my next point. Getting back up after you get knocked down. How many of you? Let me see a show of hands. Or if you're, since I don't actually see you, if you're with your mom, your dad, your coach, your teacher, your principal, whomever it is, how many of you have seen the movie Rocky Balboa? How many of you have seen the Rocky movies, right? If you have, hit pause, give props to Rocky, talk about your favorite parts, etc., etc. And then when you resume right here. So this is dealing with getting back up. So Mrs. Weira, who is a teacher that ends up living with Parvana and helping her along the way, Parvana's family, her mother and her sister, she fears for their lives. Something bad might be happening to them, and she becomes very sad and very dejected, very, very sad and crying and laying down and not wanting to move, not wanting to do anything. Parvana is defeated, right? And Mrs. Weira says to her, and this is regarding the women in Parvana's family, they don't stay there forever, meaning they don't stay down. They get up again and fight back. They don't stay there forever. They get up again and fight back. In previous episodes of AMXkids, anytime I give a talk at a school, I always talk about this idea of getting back up, getting knocked down. Life's not fair. Move on. It's a part of reality. So if you find yourself sitting, if you've ever heard yourself say, it's not fair, well, you're right. It's not fair. That's just the way it works. It's not fair. But you know what our duty, our responsibility is as leaders? Our responsibility is as the do-gooders of character and leadership and values and everything we're learning here on AMXkids. Our duty is to get back up. And I want to give you, I've been asked this question a lot. Maybe even some of you will ask me after this episode in the Q&A session. What's the single piece of advice you would give someone? Whether it's a professional, whether it's a student, a college student, athlete, no matter what it is, young person. Of all the decisions you can make, one of the most important decisions is to always, always get back up. Every decision, everything you do in your life, one of the most important decisions, choices you can make is to always get back up. I have a little note here on my desk. How many of you, look down, look all over, how many of you are wearing Nike? Nike shoes, Nike socks, Nike shirt, Nike hat, Nike wristband, Nike sweatband? Are you working out? You at the gym? Wind pants, dry fit, no matter what it is. So the creator of Nike is a guy named Phil Knight, and his book is tremendous. Parents and Coaches, you should read it. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Kids, when you're older, you should read it too. He said the best piece of advice he ever got was to, quote, just keep going, don't stop. I'm reinforcing that idea. Just keep going, don't stop. That single decision will help you almost as much as any other decision you could make in your life. So I want to go back to Rocky Balboa. So kids, if you don't know Rocky Balboa, then maybe just like hit pause or mute or play a video game or something like that. But parents, you remember the scene in Rocky 4 when Adrian goes to Russia and they're out in the snow and, you know, she had not gone with them and he was sad and she was sad, and then she shows up at the log cabin and they give a hug and she says, I'm with you to the end, or I'm with you no matter what, and he says, no matter what, and she says, no matter what. That's what I'm saying to you, young people, you world's toughest little learners, AMXkidsers, mini Spaniards, always get back up. And the last thing I want to talk about, this is kind of it's a send-off to the episode. It's a or this book, it's a send-off to the Breadwinner. And again, this book, what I think was 137, maybe 145 pages, 49 pages. It's a very easy read. It's a serious book, you know, and this is a very serious book for being a kid's book. And I would recommend that kids, young people, if you read this book, talk about it with an older person in your life, a coach, a teacher, mentor, etc. But there's some heavy stuff in this book because it's talking about Afghanistan, which is a real place. It's talking about the Taliban, which is a real group of people who does some really bad things to people. So it's very serious. And I was reading this, you know, in this book, it talks about life, it talks about death, it talks about things that no kids, no one, but no kids especially, should ever see. And so I was making this lesson plan yesterday, and I was thinking, wow, at the beginning of the Breadwinner, so AMXkids 5 is when I started it, I had expressed to you all that I was a little bit nervous to talk about this book because it's serious, and I don't know a lot about Afghanistan. I don't know a lot about the Taliban other than what I hear in the news and see on TV, etc. So I was nervous to present it, but I also presented that as a challenge, and I like challenges. And just as Parvana found herself looking forward to it, I found myself looking forward to this challenge. So as I'm closing this book out and I'm making these notes, I thought, wow, this is like really, this is a book, a kid's book that deals with some serious, heavy issues. And I texted Dread. So Dread, young people, is my partner. He's my advisor. He's a mentor of mine. And I texted him and I said something along the lines of, for a kid's book, this is very heavy, right? So for a kid's book, this is heavy, like it contains serious stuff. And he responded, and this is the last point of AMXkids 8, talking about the Breadwinner. He responded, he said, it's our old friend perspective. Perspective. And as I said at the beginning of this episode, I looked up perspective to be concise, right? To be very clear on what perspective is. Perspective is a way of seeing something or a point of view. So think about where you live right now. You know, maybe you're like me and you're from central Pennsylvania and you grew up in a small town of Hollidaysburg and you went to a high school and there were 300 kids there and you played football and wrestled and ran cross country and you came from a family of 4 and you lived in the outskirts of town and you hunted when you were a kid. Maybe that's you, right? Or maybe you're from New York City. Maybe you grew up going to a private school. Maybe it's normal for you to walk around the city in the evening. Maybe that's you. Wherever you're from, whatever your life is comprised of, forms your perspective. It forms the way you see something. I see things, present day, from the perspective of a 37-year-old father of 2 young kids who used to be a Spanish teacher, who used to be a professional fighter, who loves to read, who loves to learn, who has a great family. That provides my way of seeing something. That's your perspective. It's your point of view. That's a simple way to put it, your point of view. So that's kind of a sub-learning point there, is what is perspective? It's your point of view. Parvana, our main character in the book, her perspective is of a 13-year-old girl living in Afghanistan whose life was destroyed by the Taliban, whose father was taken away, whose father was eventually, you can read the book and find it out, who's experienced other troubles with her mother and her sister. So that's her perspective. That's her point of view. So going back to what I was saying to Dread, is it's heavy, right? And Dredd responded to me, and this is the takeaway, kids. Dredd responded to me, life for most of us is not hard, but for others it is horrific. And in other countries, there is no way to shield kids from horror. I want to read that again. And I know you have other interests in your lives. I know you probably want to play your video game, but just listen to this sentence again. Life for most of us is not hard, but for others it is horrific. And in other countries, there's no way to shield kids from horror. So my send-off to you young people listening to this, and I want to commend you for listening to this, because you could be doing a lot of other things. You could be sleeping, you could be watching a show, you could be playing your video game, you could be doing all kinds of things, but you're listening to this. And that deserves a pat on the back, a fist bump, a high five, regardless. So thank you for that. And so to those of you who are listening, be thankful for your schools. Be thankful because in Afghanistan, Parvana was forbidden to go to school. Women were forbidden to go to school. So be thankful for your school, even if it's not air conditioned, right? How terrible is a school that's not air conditioned? Trust me, I used to teach in one. Be thankful for your family or your teachers or your mentors or your guidance counselor or your principals. They're in it for you. They want you to win. They want to help you. Be thankful for your phones. Be thankful for the simplicity of Wi-Fi. Be thankful for your video games. Don't take that stuff for granted, because other kids in other parts of the world, they have a very different perspective of what tough and difficult is. So I sincerely appreciate you all tuning in. I encourage you all, parents, please use these episodes to facilitate meaningful conversation with the young people in your lives. Young people, you can even listen to these while you're playing your video game. How cool is that? How cool is that? You listen to AMXkids while playing your video game. That's what you call a win-win. There you have it, folks. Let's end with that. I'll be back next Tuesday starting a new book, fresh book. I don't know which one it is, but you're going to have to come back and find out. Young people, parents, teachers, coaches, connect with me on social media. I love geeking out about books. I love talking about learning. It's truly like what I want to do most. Train in the gym and then talk about books and learning. So please reach out on social media at Charlie Spaniard, charliespaniard.com. Teachers, parents, coaches, etc. has my speaking program information. If you want to bring the Spaniard Show, if you want to bring AMXkids to your school, to your team, etc., my website, charliespaniard.com, has all that information. And I say to you, my friends, be bold. See ya. Man, I hope that makes a difference in one kid's life, right? Obviously, I hope it millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. But I love it. Absolutely love it. And I hope that it helps some kid somewhere. Some kid somewhere who feels alone, dejected, sad, like Parvana did. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing it with the young people in your life, or thinking about it, or at least just watching and listening. Very grateful. So this will be published to my podcast feed at 4 p.m. and then today. And then AMXkids, another one will be out next Tuesday. Pretty pumped to start a new book. Don't know which one it's going to be. Might be one of Jocko's books. Kids' books. I don't know. See ya.